Wait, today's Allie's birthday? Uh-oh. I was gonna say, careful what you're saying. Christy's past 40, so check. That might not be winning. It depends on who you marry. That could be losing. For Christy, it was winning.
Happy birthday! Thank you. What are you gonna do to celebrate? I think I did enough. Hence why I'm hoarse today.
Check. Check. Microphone check. That sounds good. Is there any reason why I continue to talk? You just like to hear my voice? Are your hands all yucky again? Here, look, Lolly. Here.
You sounded mad.
Nope, I'm not mad.
With the hands in the pockets.
I'm the opposite.
No aggressive.
Hey, see where Sierra's at.
Sound aggressive?
You can't even take me seriously.
No. All right, I'm going to stop mic checking unless somebody tells me I should continue. They can't, so they're not connected? Is that what I hear you saying?
Family vacations? Yes, that's
You want me to send somebody up? Where's Riot? All right, is there any reason why we shouldn't do a live run through? What? She's fired. Oh. Why? She's fired because if you're not 5 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late.
I don't know if we want to pause in the middle of the live run through if you're not here, though, Paul.
she's literally almost here.
But you can leave right after the second worship song. Is there an emergency this morning already?
Real Life. I'm Gabby, and you're watching The Real. If you missed out on last week's Father's Day gifts, don't worry, we've got you covered. Stop by the Count Me In table after service and pick up your gift today. Also, at the Count Me In table, you can pick up your lids for your growlers. Hey teenage friends, guess what? Next week, we'll be having our first of 3 lake parties this summer. From 4 to 7 p.m., we'll be out at Mark and Carrie Anderson's place. All of our 6th to 12th grade friends are invited, and this 3 hours of fun costs only $3. Again, that's next week from 7 to 4, so mark your calendars. Last week, our friends at the Nazarene Church hosted a VBS for elementary-aged kids. It was a huge success, and we just wanted to give a shout out to all of the community groups for putting on such a great event and providing a safe place for us to send our kids and learn more about the Bible. Some of you also volunteered your time by helping out at VBS this week, and we just want to take a moment and say thank you. We think it's so great that you're willing to take time out of your day to help the kids in this valley. I'm Gabby, have a wonderful Sunday, and you've been watching The Real. Welcome to Real Life.
Why does it do that every week? In case you walk in late.
Somebody stepped on the anthill. I got about 5 hours.
He's really the only other guy to. There we go. The only other guy to do it only did it for 2 batters, but this guy does it every game, so it's stinking incredible. He actually, what?
A new one.
No.
Yeah.
Where?
I saw him at spring training.
No.
I can't tell you his name.
He's not a pro. Anyways, the guy was basically built by his dad to be an ambidextrous pitcher. He's not ambidextrous. He's right-handed. But his dad made him become an ambidextrous pitcher so that he could get him to the next level, because his dad played collegiate baseball. He wanted his son to get further. And it worked. He's not a great pitcher, which is why he's pitched for like 6 different teams. But amphibious. Yes. So then I'm going to talk about how we have strategies for parenting. And but we don't always have strategy for other parts of our lives. And then I'm going to be praying. Oh, you probably need to be ready before I'm praying, right? My love? I'm going to start praying, and you probably got to be ready. I'll grab her when I'm done. I'm praying. I'm praying. I'm praying. Amen. Will you please stand and sing with us?
Stronger, we overcome.
good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. And I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers only you can provide, and you know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are, Lord. It's who you are, and I am loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. Lord, you are perfect in all of your ways to us. Oh, love so undeniable. I can hardly speak. Oh, peace so unexplainable. I can hardly think as you call me deeper still, as you call me deeper still, as you call me deeper still into love, 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 love. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. And it's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are, Lord. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to me. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You may be seated. May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung. And may you stay forever young. May you stay forever young. righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous. Stand upright and be strong. And may you stay forever young. And may you stay forever young. May your hands always be busy. May your feet always be swift. May you have a strong foundation when the winds of changes shift. May your heart always be joyful. May your song always be sung. May you stay forever young. May you stay forever young.
Talking about my generation, just because we get around.
Name this famous trio.
Larry, Moe, and Curly.
Not quite. Those are the Stooges. This is the
Three Amigos.
Three Amigos is correct. Another question for you here. Which group is made up of the following? Niall, Liam, Harry, and Lewis. Maybe you could think of one answer to share to all of us tonight. I mean, just one is what we're looking for here.
One Direction.
One Direction is correct. Well done. Here, we're going to name, we're going to start with you, Mike. You're going to name this famous Ed. This famous Ed. So his first name is Ed. We're looking for his last name.
Ed McGillicuddy.
Ed McGillicuddy. Did you go to college with Ed McGillicuddy?
No.
Oh, because that is not Ed McGillicuddy. Micah, can you name who that is?
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran is correct.
My generation.
Okay. Check again. Check again. Check, check, check. Check, check.
Did we ever touch that?
Check.
Did you make an adjustment earlier? No. No, really. I need you to. Well, I accidentally touched
Check. Check. We got to fix that. Check. All right, well, let's fix this. Because when the Holy Ghost comes in, I'm going to be a lot louder than this, all right? Check. Check. Check, check, check. All right, Sierra Michelle Bell. Let's go through these. Sierra, either my sermon is going to be 20 minutes long, or it's going to be 20 minutes over what it's supposed to be. I don't know yet. All right, I can't figure it out. All right, keep going. Keep going. I might say that one really, really quick, the strategy for our kids. This picture, I'm not even going to, I'll just start telling the story about the quest for the South Pole. I won't say here's a picture, it'll just come up. Next one, how not doesn't equal how to, yep. Yeah, let me put, how big does this actually look? How big does this quote look? Check. All right. That one, when this comes up, Sierra, I'm gonna walk over to the TV and I'm gonna read it off. I don't even have it in my notes, so keep it up there. Don't. Put some ground rules in place. Yep. Keep it moving. I'm gonna do this scripture real quick too, because I don't want to. All right. Keep going. Perfect. Yep. Careful. All right. I think that's good, Sierra. I feel good. All right. And you guys have me muted up there, and you feel comfortable with how I sound? Okay. Thank you. Check. Thank you. All right. Prayer. You got 3 minutes. Prayer in 3 minutes.
around, just my boy and me, with a Happy Meal in his booster seat, knowing that he couldn't have the toy till his nuggets were gone. A green traffic light turned straight to red. I hit my brakes and mumbled under my breath. His fries went a-flying and his orange drink covered his lap. Well, in my 4-year-old said a 4-letter word. It started with S, and I was concerned. So I said, son, now where'd you learn to talk like that? He said, I've been watching you, Dad, ain't that cool? I'm your buckaroo, I wanna be like you and eat all my food and grow as tall as you are. We got cowboy boots and camo pants, yeah, we're just alike, hey, ain't we, Dad? I wanna do everything you do, so I've been watching you. Got back home and I went to the barn. I bowed my head and I prayed real hard. Said, Lord, please help me help my stupid self. Then this side of bedtime later that night, turning on my son Scooby-Doo nightlight. He crawled out of bed and he got down on his knees. He closed his little eyes, folded his little hands, spoke to God like he was talking to a friend. And I said, son, now where'd you learn to pray like that? He said, I've been watching you, Dad, ain't that cool? I'm your buckaroo, I wanna be like you and eat all my food and grow as tall as you are. We like fixing things and holding Mama's hand. Yeah, we're just alike, hey, ain't we, Dad? I wanna do everything you do, so I've been watching you. With tears in my eyes, I wrapped him in a hug. Said, my little bear is growing up. And he said, but when I'm big, I'll still know what to do. 'Cause I've been watching you, Dad, ain't that cool? I'm your buckaroo, I wanna be like you and eat all my food and grow as tall as you are. By then I'll be strong as Superman, we'll be just alike, hey, won't we, Dad? When I can do everything you do, 'cause I've been watching you. Hey, yeah.
Dirty old window. Outside, the cars in the city go rushing by. I sit here alone and I wonder why. Friday night and everyone's moving. I can feel the heat, but it's soothing, heading down. I search for the beat in this dirty town. Down the young without going. Down the young without going. We're the kids in America. We're the kids in America. Everybody live for the music around. Bright lights and music gets faster. Look, boy, don't check on your watch, not another glance. I'm not leaving now, honey, not a chance. Hot shot, give me no problems. Much later, baby, you'll be saying, never mind. You know life is cruel, life is never kind. So make a little story, kind not so grab a little glory. We're the kids in America.
just because we get around. Talking about my generation. Things they do look awful. Talking about my generation. I hope I die before I get old. Talking about my generation. This is my generation, baby. Why don't you all fade away? Don't try and dig what we all say. I'm not trying to cause a big sensation. I'm just talking about my generation. My generation. This is my generation, baby. Why don't you all fade away? Don't try to dig what we all say. I'm trying to cause a big sensation. Just talking about my generation. This is my generation. This is my generation, baby. My generation. People try to put us to down. Talking about my generation. Just because we could get around. Talking about my generation. Things they do look awful cold. My generation. I hope I die before I get old. Talking about my generation. This is my generation, baby. Generation.
Double wide quick stop, midnight tea top, Jack in her cherry coke town. Mama and daddy put their roots right here, 'cause this is where the car broke down. Yellow dog school bus, kicking up red bus, picking us up by a barbed wire fence. MTV on the RCA, no AC in the vents. We were Jesus Save Me, Blue Jean Baby, born in the USA. Trailer park truck stop, faded little map dots, New York to LA. We were teenage dreaming, front seat leaning, baby come give me a kiss. Put me on the cover of the Rolling Stone, uptown, down home, American kids. Growing up in little pink houses, making out on living room couches, blowing that smoke on Saturday night. A little messed up, but we're all alright. Baptist church parking lot, trying not to get caught. Take her home and give her your jacket. Making it to second base, but saying you went all the way Monday afternoon at practice. Sister's got a boyfriend, daddy doesn't lie. Now he's sitting out back 30-30 in his lap in the blue bug zapper light. We were Jesus Save Me, Blue Jean Baby, born in the USA. Trailer park truck stop, faded little map dots, New York to LA. We were teenage dreaming, front seat leaning, baby come give me a kiss. Put me on the cover of the Rolling Stone, uptown, down home, American kids.
just can't help but hear 'em. Man, I can't avoid it. I hear voices. I hear voices like my dad saying, work that job, but don't work your life away. And mama telling me to drop some cash in the offering plate on Sunday. And granddad saying you can have a few, but don't ever cross that line. Yeah, I hear voices all the time. Turns out I'm pretty dang lucky for all that good advice. Those hard to find words of wisdom hold up here in my mind. And just when I've lost my way, or I've got too many choices, I hear voices. I hear voices like my dad saying, quit that teaming. You'll be a quitter for the rest of your life. And mama telling me to say a prayer every time I lay down at night. And grandma saying, if you find the one, you better treat her right. Yeah, I hear voices all the time. Sometimes I try to ignore them, but I thank God for them, 'cause they made me who I am. My dad saying work that job, but don't work your life away. And mama telling me to drop some cash in the offering plate on Sunday. And granddad saying you can have a few, but don't ever cross that line. Yeah, I hear voices all the time. Yeah, I hear voices all the time. All the time.
All my life been hustling and tonight is my appraisal. 'Cause I'm a hooker selling songs and my pimp's a record label. This world is full of demon stocks and bonds and Bible traders. So I do the deed, get up and leave a climber and a sadist, yeah. Are you ready for the sequel? Ain't ready for the latest? In the garden of evil, I'm gonna be the greatest in a golden cathedral. I'll be praying for the faithless, and if you lose, boo-hoo. Hey, look, ma, I made it. Hey, look, ma, I made it. Everything's coming up pieces, pieces. If it's a dream, don't wake me, don't wake me. I said, hey, look, ma, I made it. Friends are happy for me, or they're honeysuckle phonies. Then they celebrate my medals, or they wanna take my trophies. Some are loyal soldiers, while these other thorns are rosy. And if you never know who you can trust, then trust me, you'll be lonely. Oh, are you ready for the sequel? Ain't ready for the latest in the garden of evil. I'm gonna be the greatest in a golden cathedral. I'll be praying for the faithless, and if you lose, boo-hoo. Hey, look, ma, I made it. Hey, look, ma, I made it. Everything's coming up pieces, pieces. If it's a dream, don't wake
town, just my boy and me, with a Happy Meal in his booster seat, knowing that he couldn't have the toy till his nuggets were gone. A green traffic light turned straight to red. I hit my brakes and mumbled under my breath as fries went a-flying and his orange drink covered his lap. Well, in my 4-year-old said a 4-letter word. It started with S, and I was concerned. So I said, son, now where'd you learn to talk like that? He said, I've been watching you, Dad, ain't that cool? I'm your buckaroo, I wanna be like you and eat all my food and grow as tall as you are. We got cowboy boots and camo pants, yeah, we're just alike, hey, ain't we, Dad? I wanna do everything you do, so I've been watching you. We got back home and I went to the barn. I bowed my head and I prayed real hard. Said, Lord, please help me help my stupid self. Then this side of bedtime later that night, turning on my son Scooby-Doo nightlight. He crawled out of bed and he got down on his knees. He closed his little eyes, folded his little hands, spoke to God like he was talking to a friend. And I said, son, now where'd you learn to pray like that? He said, I've been watching you, Dad, ain't that cool? I'm your buckaroo, I wanna be like you and eat all my food and grow as tall as you are. We like fixing things and holding Mama's hand, yeah, we're just alike, hey, ain't we, Dad? I wanna do everything you do, so I've been watching you. With tears in my eyes, I wrapped him in a hug, said my little bear is growing up. And he said, but when I'm big, I'll still know what to do. 'Cause I've been watching you, Dad, ain't that cool? I'm your buckaroo, I wanna be like you and eat all my food and grow as tall as you are. By then I'll be strong as Superman, we'll be just alike. just because we get around. Talking about my generation. Things ain't do look awful. Talking about my generation. I hope I die before I get old. Talking about my generation. This is my generation, baby. Why don't you all fade away? Don't try and dig what we all say. I'm not trying to cause a big sensation. I'm just talking about my generation. My generation. This is my generation, baby. Why don't you all fade away? Don't try to dig what we all say. I'm trying to cause a big sensation. Just talking about my generation. This is my generation. This is my generation, baby. People try to put us to down. Just because we get around. Things they do look awful cold. I hope I die before I get old.
Double wide, quick stop, midnight tea, top Jack in her cherry coke town. Mama and daddy put their roots right here, 'cause this is where the car broke down. Yellow dog school bus, kicking up red bus, picking us up by barbed wire fence. MTV on the RCA, no AC in the vents. We were Jesus Save Me, blue jean baby, born in the USA. Trailer park truck stop, faded little map dots, New York to LA. We were teenage dreaming, front seat leaning, baby come give me a kiss. Put me on the cover of the Rolling Stone, uptown, down home, American kids. Rolling up in little pink houses, making out on living room couches, blowing that smoke on Saturday night. A little messed up, but we're all alright. Baptist church parking lot, trying not to get caught. Take her home and give her your jacket. Making it to second base, but saying you went all the way Monday afternoon at practice. Sister's got a boyfriend, daddy doesn't lie. Now he's sitting out back, 30-30 in his lap, in the blue bug zapper light. We were Jesus Save Me, blue jean baby, born in the USA. Trailer park truck stop, faded little map dots, New York to LA. We were teenage dreaming, front seat leaning, baby come give me a kiss. Put me on the cover of the Rolling Stone, uptown, down
just can't help but hear 'em. Man, I can't avoid it. I hear voices. I hear voices like my dad saying, work that job, but don't work your life away. And mama telling me to drop some cash in the offering plate on Sunday. And granddad saying you can have a few, but don't ever cross that line. Yeah, I hear voices all the time. Turns out I'm pretty dang lucky for all that good advice. Those hard to find words of wisdom hold up here in my mind. And just when I've lost my way, or I've got too many choices, I hear voices. I hear voices like my dad saying, quit that team and you'll be a quitter for the rest of your life. And mama telling me to say a prayer every time I lay down at night. And grandma saying, if you find the one, you better treat her right. Yeah, I hear voices all the time. Sometimes I try to ignore them, but I thank God for them, 'cause they've made me who I am. My dad saying work that job, but don't work your life away. And mama telling me to drop some cash in the offering plate on Sunday. And granddad saying you can have a few, but don't ever cross that line. Yeah, I hear voices all the time. Yeah, I hear voices all the time. All the time.
All my life been hustling and tonight is my appraisal. 'Cause I'm a hooker selling songs and my pimp's a record label. This world is full of demon stocks and bonds and Bible traders. So I do
He's got a smile that it seems to me reminds me of childhood memories where everything was as fresh as the bright blue sky.
Real Life. I'm Gabby, and you're watching The Real. If you missed out on last week's Father's Day gifts, don't worry, we've got you covered. Stop by the Count Me In table after service and pick up your gift today. Also, at the Count Me In table, you can pick up your lids for your growlers. Hey teenage friends, guess what? Next week, we'll be having our first of 3 lake parties this summer. From 4 to 7 p.m., we'll be out at Mark and Carrie Anderson's place. All of our 6th to 12th grade friends are invited, and this 3 hours of fun costs only $3. Again, that's next week from 7 to 4, so mark your calendars. Last week, our friends at the Nazarene Church hosted a VBS for elementary-aged kids. It was a huge success, and we just wanted to give a shout out to all of the community groups for putting on such a great event and providing a safe place for us to send our kids and learn more about the Bible. Some of you also volunteered your time by helping out at VBS this week, and we just want to take a moment and say thank you. We think it's so great that you're willing to take time out of your day to help the kids in this valley. I'm Gabby, have a wonderful Sunday, and you've been watching The Real.
Good morning. Listen, if you can't get behind that first song, there is something wrong with you. Was that not incredible? That was really good. Yeah. And it's Allie's birthday today. Yeah. She said for her birthday she would like a full frontal hug from everybody in attendance, all right? So she'll be outside afterwards. You can wish her happy birthday with a full frontal hug. I don't know how old she is. She said she feels like she's 40. So happy 40th, Allie. My name's Graham. Welcome to Real Life. And we started Real Life almost 7 years ago so that people who are far from God or feel far from God or not really sure where they sit with God or even if there is a God can come here and find real life in Christ. So if that's you, if somebody drug you here today or you heard that if you came early enough there's still donuts, like great. Thanks for coming. We're super glad you're here. We got a lot going on, including last week was Father's Day and we gave out these growlers. And we didn't want to give you the whole, package at one time, so we didn't give you any lids for them last week. This week, we're going to give you lids for them. So that's going to, help a little bit. So there's lids out there, or if you're a father and you didn't get one, we have extra growlers and lids. You don't have to wait for the following week to get your lid. So we got lids. Now, here's what's really cool is our friends at Chelan Craft Cider, which is over kind of by Don Morris, they'll give you a deal if you come in with that Real Life growler. They'll give you like more for less. I don't know the details of it, but I know it's a good deal. So if you like good cider, go to Chelan Craft Cider and take your Real Life growler, and they'll give you some kind of deal on it. So do that. A couple other things. We have some friends here at Real Life who are leaving us. Mike and Shirley Miner are moving to Georgia, and if you don't know who they are, here's what you got to know. They played an integral part in making Real Life happen. They were some of the huge supporters of Kyle and the leadership team that helped get this church going, and Mike was one of our original elders of the church. And so I don't know where you guys are sitting. Usually you're in the back somewhere, but I love you guys. My heart breaks that you're leaving, but I just want to say thank you on behalf of Real Life for getting us to where we are. So thank you guys. All right, now stop clapping because they're breaking my heart and while they're leaving, all right? They only get 30 seconds of clapping, not a full minute. Lastly, next week, we are having our first of 3 lake parties for teenagers, anybody who's 6th through 12th grade. Even, I don't tell a lot of people this, but you're my friends, so I'll tell you guys, even if they're 5th graders going into 6th grade, we'll let them come, okay? Don't tell anybody, all right? But if they're your kids, bring them along. It's $3. It's at Mark and Carrie Anderson's place, which is over by Chelan Cellars, over here on the South Shore. You'll see our signs. You just start driving out there. But one of the things that we do is we have some boats come along, and we pull kids on tubes and stuff. And my boat drivers this year are unavailable for next Sunday. So I'm looking for a couple more boat drivers. So if you have a boat, I have an extra tube. If you don't have a tube, if you like kids or you can tolerate kids for 2 hours and want to give them a great time, come and talk to me afterwards or send me an email or phone call because we want to provide some fun things for our kids to do this summer. And we could really use your help doing that. So if that's you, give me a call. Other than that, we are in our second week of this new series we started called Tomorrowland, Helping the Next Gen Win. And last week we looked at generational sin and how the decisions that our parents, our grandparents made, how they've affected us and how our decisions will affect the generations to come after us, both positive and negative. And this week we're going to look at something that I would be surprised if most of us have ever sat down and really thought about what I'm going to talk about today. All of these sermons, this whole sermon series is mostly just inspired off conversations that I've had. And this one was inspired by a Facebook message conversation I had with a mom a couple months ago, and I'll get into that later. But to set this up, I want to tell you this weird story. And I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, Kayla and I, my wife, were at a Mariners game. And I think it was like the 7th inning, so at this point, the Mariners have already lost the game, right? If they're not winning, in the 6th or 7th inning, they're done. They can't win. There's just no way. So nobody's watching. Nobody cares anymore. And we're playing the Oakland A's, and the A's bring in this relief pitcher. And when they said his name, Pat Venditti, I was like, I've heard of this guy. How do I know this guy? And I'm trying to figure out, and I'm watching him warm up, and as he's warming up, I start freaking out. I'm like a middle school girl and like Justin Bieber walked in the room, or just I'm freaking out, and I'm slapping my wife on the I'm like, Kayla, this is my wife, Kayla, this is Pat Venditti. This is the guy. You have to watch this. And I think we had our kids, and they were crying. I was like, put that kid down. You need to see this guy. You will never see a guy like this again. I'm freaking out. Nobody else in the stadium could care less. Nobody. Finally, this guy, like 2 rows in front of me, turns around and he said, is this that ambidextrous pitcher? And I said, yes, this is him. This is the ambidextrous pitcher. This is the only time in your life you will see a guy pitch from both sides of the mound. And if you don't play baseball, it doesn't mean anything to you, right? But just know this. In the history of Major League Baseball, Pat Venditti is the only player to pitch to more than like 2 batters with his left hand and his right hand. The only person. We only know of 2 guys who've ever actually done it, but he's the only one who's done it consistently for any amount of time. And honestly, he's not that great. I'm serious. There's a reason why he's played for like 6 different teams. But the reality is, I was like, I'll never see this. I had my phone out. I was taking pictures like a loser. Right? I was just like, I was so excited. And I was like, okay, now he's going lefty. I'm going to get this one to the left. I was like so excited. Nobody in the stadium cared. I was the only one. But I was so excited. And I had heard this guy's story. There's a ESPN 30 for 30 for him. I think it's on YouTube if you go look at it, if you care anything at all about baseball. And Pat Venditti is not naturally ambidextrous. He's right-handed. But his dad, who played collegiate baseball, had this theory that he could train his son to pitch ambidextrously. And so he did. So his dad was kind of a weird guy. And in the lot next to their house, they built a batting cage. Since Pat was homeschooled, they would train 3 or 4 times a day, and he had these different things that he would make Pat do. He would have to throw footballs left-handed, he would have to eat left-handed, he would have to write left-handed, he would have to play violin left-handed, so he could play violin right and left-handed, and he had this strategy that, honestly, it paid off in the long run. He had this strategy to make his kid an ambidextrous pitcher, and it totally worked. And there's times in our lives, especially as parents, that we have a strategy set up for our kids, right? We know how they're going to get into that school. We know how they're going to play a collegiate sport. We know, how they're going to stay out of trouble or something like that. We have a strategy. Sometimes we have a strategy in our own lives. I know how I'm going to attain these goals. I know how I'm going to save that much money. I know how I'm going to lose this weight or whatever it might be. But then there's a part of our lives, I think the spiritual part of our lives, that sometimes we've never even thought about having strategy for. We just thought, I'll show up, or I'll just send my kid to youth group and hope they find Jesus along the way or find some truth along the way. And I'm wondering, maybe if we take a second and think about some strategy, maybe that could pay off for us in the long run. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Will you pray with me? Father, I thank you for today. Lord, I pray that you give Allie an awesome day on her birthday. And I also ask that you will just come and join us here, that we can just kind of forget about craziness, how the lawn needs to be mowed, and we need to pay our bills and all these other things. Just let that go aside for a little bit, God. Let us think about maybe how we can become more like you, how our kids can become more like you, and show us the benefits of that. And I ask for all that in the powerful name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Will you please stand and sing with us?
You call us out from the depths into your freedom. Our chains are gone. No weapon formed shall prevail. Your word is stronger. We overcome. Glory resounds through the age. All saints declaring your great renown. Your kingdom forever will stand. We won't be shaken. We will not fear. Our God and mighty warrior, you're a consuming fire. In victory you reign. We triumph in your name. Jesus, the great commander, you conquered death forever. In victory you reign. We triumph in your name. that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. And I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers only you can provide, and you know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are, Lord. It's who you are, Lord. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. Oh, love so undeniable. I can hardly speak. Oh, peace so unexplainable. I can hardly think as you call me deeper still, as you call me deeper still, as you call me deeper still into love, 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 love. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are, Lord. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am, Lord. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are, Jesus. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You are perfect in all of your ways, Jesus. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You may be seated. May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every round. May you stay forever young. May you stay forever young. May you grow righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous, stand upright and be strong. And may you stay forever young. May you stay forever young. May your hands always be busy. May your feet always be swift. May you have a strong foundation when the winds of changes shift. May your heart always be joyful. May your song always be sung. May you stay forever young. May you stay forever young.
Just because we get around.
Name this famous trio.
Larry, Moe, and Curly.
Ooh, not quite. Those are the Stooges. This is the
Three Amigos.
Three Amigos is correct. Another question for you here. Which group is made up of the following? Niall, Liam, Harry, and Lewis. Maybe you could think of one answer to share to all of us tonight. I mean, just one is what we're looking for here.
One Direction.
One Direction is correct. Well done. Here, we're going to name, we're going to start with you, Mike. You're going to name this famous Ed. This famous Ed. So his first name is Ed. We're looking for his last name.
Ed McGillicuddy.
Ed McGillicuddy. Did you go to college with Ed McGillicuddy?
No.
Oh, because that is not Ed McGillicuddy. Micah, can you name who that is?
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran is correct.
Ed McGillicuddy. Check, check. Thank you. Thank you. Ed McGillicuddy. He's coming out with a new record, I think, coming out here pretty soon. It's going to be good. Hey, welcome, Brewster. Thank you for tuning in with us. Thank you for tuning in every week with us. If you're in the video venue or you're watching this online later on in the week because you don't like people, thank you. Also for hanging out with us. And if you're in this room with me, especially thank you. We are going to continue our series today called Tomorrowland, Helping the Next Gen Win. And last week we looked at what we call generational sin. And I know people don't like that word sin, but I just think it's the right word. And how our decisions affect not just our kids, but generations and generations to come. And really, a lot of this sermon series is not just based off conversations I've had in 11 years of youth ministry, but part of it's just the position I'm in. And I am, as a youth pastor, I'm perfectly positioned to see the decisions of one generation affect the other one. I see it with the kids who come to youth group. I see, the decisions that their parents are making and how it affects their kids. But I also, 'cause I've been doing it long enough now, where I've seen kids and the decisions that they make affect their future and then start to affect the kids underneath them. And so everything, this whole series is just based off, mostly just off conversations. As I told some of you guys in the room earlier, a lot of this sermon is based off a conversation I had via Facebook Messenger. And I got a message, or actually a mom had commented on one of our pictures on social media, one of our youth group's pictures. And the comment just said, help, like 30 exclamation points. And it said, my kids don't want to come anymore. I don't know what to do. And she kind of caught me maybe at a vulnerable time. I think it was Monday. Mondays are not good for me. I don't know, I'm always a little too stressed on Mondays. And so I messaged her back. You know those conversations that you should wait and then respond? I didn't wait. It was one of those ones. I didn't wait. I just messaged her back, and I was really blunt with her. I don't think I was rude, but I was really blunt with her. And then I knew I was in trouble because it didn't sit well with me. And like a couple hours later, I ran into Kyle, our lead pastor, and I said, he was a youth pastor for 20 years. And I said, hey, this is what I said to this mom. Am I in trouble? And he looks at the message. He goes, I think you're good, man. He goes, it's pretty blunt, but he goes, I don't disagree with it at all. And then when she didn't respond for a couple days, then I knew I was really in trouble. And what I said to her really doesn't matter, but what's important is I realized that this mom was in a place that a lot of us as parents have been, or even as individuals, we get to in our own lives, where we realize either A, we don't have a strategy. And maybe this mom didn't have a strategy for her kids' spiritual lives. She didn't know what the rules were that she was going to put in place for her kids. Or, and this is more popular for us, we realize we have a strategy and it's not working, right? And this is where this mom was. She says, help, I can't get them to come anymore. I don't know what to do. Her strategy, whether she had one or not, was done. She was at the end of her rope. And strategy is a big deal because we don't want to choose the wrong strategy. Choosing the wrong strategy could end really, really poorly. I don't know if you've ever heard the story about the race for the South Pole. I like history. I don't know why. I wish I would have liked history when I was in high school. I probably would have done better. But I like history now. And the race for the South Pole is a super interesting story because it was a group of Brits and a group of Norwegians who were racing to get to the South Pole first. And the Norwegians decided that they were going to go 20 miles a day, no matter what the weather was. They were going to use only dog sleds because that was proven in that kind of environment. The Brits decided that they were going to go really, really far, as you know, on the good days, and then they would just hunker down on the bad days. And the Brits tried snow machines and they tried ponies, and then by the time they got to dogs, they weren't really trained with the dog sleds, so their dogs didn't last very long, and they ended up pulling their sleds. And the story, the end of it, was very different because the Norwegians made it to the South Pole a month before the Brits did. And the Brits got there and they saw what was left of this camp where the Norwegians had celebrated that they were the first ones there. And the Norwegians turned around and went home. And the Brits turned around and went home, but they didn't make it. They had very different strategies. And one strategy worked out really, really well, and one ended up terribly. So when we think about our lives, not just our spiritual lives, but we're going to hunker down on that today, we're going to think about what is our strategy, and maybe do we even have one? Because I would be willing to guess a lot of us have never thought about that. Like when it comes to our spiritual lives, do we even have a strategy? And for some of us who are in the room and we're not Christians, we're not interested in Jesus, we don't even know if there's really a God, that's so great. I'm so glad that you're here to hang out with us. But I bet you have, or at least need, some kind of spiritual strategy anyways. Because I know there's this thought out there, this idea that like, oh, I'm going to let my kids find truth for themselves. But that's got to be contained a little bit because there's a lot of stuff out there in this world that is not good that claims to be truthful. There's a lot of stuff out there, whether you're religious or not, you don't want your kids to get involved in. And so you got to have some kind of strategy for your kids, but even yourself, that says, here's how I'm going to grow, here's how I'm going to pursue truth, here's what's going to tell me what my morals are. And some of us don't have a strategy, but we have a half strategy. I think it's like a half strategy. It's like a how not to do things strategy, right? Where like Kyle talks about, if you've heard him talk about his drug problem as a kid, he was drugged to church, and he was drugged to small groups, and he was drugged to worship things, right? And so we have this like half strategy. It's like I know how I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to drag my kids to these things, but the reality is a half strategy is really not that great. All right, you can't apply this to other parts of your life, right? If you're going to go skydiving and you have to pack your own parachute, and you say, hey, do you know how to pack your own parachute? And somebody says, well, I know how not to pack one. It's like, I'm not going with that guy, right? Imagine if you're like downtown here and somebody pulls up and they're like, I need to get to the hospital. And how do I get to the hospital? And you just say, well, don't go down that road, right? Yeah, maybe that's a little helpful, but like that's not going to help them get to the hospital on the wrong way. Even if you're like down in Brewster where there's only like 2 roads, right? Sorry, guys. And you say, hey, don't go down that road. It still doesn't get them to the hospital. How not doesn't equal how to. We have to have a plan that teaches us how to do something. Knowing how it didn't work for us isn't going to tell us how it is going to work for our kids. I think for a lot of us as parents, and I know we can be fearful to push our kids in the direction of going to youth group or going to church or something like that. We don't want them to have a drug problem when they grow up like Kyle did, right? But for a lot of us, we're just hoping that it works out. And for a lot of us, it's like we're building this paper boat and we're putting it in the Columbia River and we're just hoping it gets to the ocean. We don't have any strategy behind it. In the reality, if we put a paper boat in the Columbia, will it get to the ocean? Maybe. Possibly. But maybe there's some other things we could do, we could introduce. Maybe there's some strategy or some strategery, as the late George W. Bush says. Maybe there's some strategy we could put in place that would help get our kids down the river, that would help us get them to the places we would like to see them be spiritually, and maybe even in our own lives. There's some strategy we can put into our own lives that would help us get to where we want to be spiritually. When I graduated high school here in Chelan, class of 2004, you can see all my achievements in the weight room. I turned 18 that summer, and like most mature 18-year-olds, I went to the gas station, I bought a cigar, I smoked half of it and got sick, and then I went out to the casino, because I don't know, you like think it's, when you're not 18, you think the casino's like Disneyland or something, like something amazing, and then you get out there and you're like, oh, this is what I don't know what I was thinking. And I went out there and I played blackjack and I loved it. I still love blackjack. And I decided right then and there, this is before like card counting and everything was like really popular, but I decided like I'm gonna be the world's best blackjack. I'm gonna get rich. Like forget college, I have blackjack. So I went down to Wenatchee that week and I went and I bought a book from a real store, which like doesn't happen anymore. You have to buy your books online and usually they're digitally, but I bought it from this place called Hastings, may it rest in peace. And it told you exactly how to play blackjack. And it's like, here's all the statistics. Here's what you need to do. When you get this card and they have that card, when you're sitting in this chair, when there's somebody in that chair, and yada, yada, yada. And I ate this up. I think I read more of that book than I read at my entire senior year of high school. I was just so excited. I was going to be like a professional blackjack player. And I get out there, and I still know all the rules. I know the statistics. I know what you should do and everything. But when you do that, when you learn a game like that, especially a game based off of numbers, it changes the game. It's not luck anymore. You have a strategy. Sometimes it pays off for you, sometimes it doesn't. But it totally changes the game. And it's not emotional anymore. I don't have to go off of my feelings, like the dealer, deals this, and I'm like, oh, what am I feeling inside? I'm feeling like I need to hit. I'm feeling like I need to stay. When you have a strategy, you just know what to do. You have some ground rules in place, and you know what to do, which I think is great for the rest of our lives, because I don't know about you, but my strategy for losing weight doesn't line up with my feelings about sugar, right? My strategy for saving money doesn't line up with my feelings about going on vacation. Our feelings and our strategy don't always line up, and we just fall to the side of our strategy to be safe because we have put in some ground rules. And when we know our strategy, we don't have to guess. We don't have to hope. We don't have to go off luck. We have a reason. We have some guides that'll keep us in place. I told you that this sermon is really based off a conversation I had with this mom, and in a second I'll show you this quote, what I said to her. I'll show you word for word what I said to her. But really what I was trying to get at with her was that if we don't have any strategy, all we have is chance. If you go to play blackjack and you have no idea how to play the game, all you have is chance, all you have is hope, all you have is luck, maybe some feelings, some emotions. That's it. And I don't know about you, but when it comes to my life and the lives of my children, I don't really want to bank on hope and luck and chance. All right? I'm not saying that what we're going to talk about today is like surefire, that guaranteed you do these 3 things and all of your kids will be priests and nuns. Guaranteed, right? I'm not making that claim at all. But I'm saying maybe there's some strategy we can put into place. Maybe I got a couple things after 11 years of youth ministry that might help. That might help. At least it's worth talking about. So this mom messages me on Facebook a few months ago. And again, I responded really blunt. I don't think I was mean. You can decide. We're going to put the quote up here. But this is what I said to her. I said, I had already answered one other question. So I said, also, I think there are just times when we as parents have to force our kids to do things. I don't think most kids would attend school if they had the option, but most of us are fearful to be forceful with youth group because we fear it'll push them away from the church. I can say with confidence that after 10 years of youth ministry, I've never seen a kid walk away from church because their parents forced them to go to my youth group. I have, however, seen dozens of kids leave the valley with no interest in Jesus because their parents didn't force them to get involved. They might not want to come, but I promise once they get there, they'll have fun, grow, and make connections. And I said this to Kyle. I said, man, am I wrong here? And he said, no. He said, I'll put my 20 plus years of youth ministry on top of that also. The amount of phone calls I get at least 2 every single year, usually happens like sometime around graduation, and it's a mom or dad whose son or daughter has just graduated or maybe graduated a year ago or something, and they're calling me desperate. They're like, my son or daughter needs a mentor. Can you meet with my son? Can you have somebody meet with my daughter? Can you do this? Can you do that? Because they're just lost, and they think, hey, Graham works with kids, or he knows people who work with kids. He'll connect with my kid, and he'll straighten them out. And my thought is, I always say, yeah, sure, I'll meet with him. My thought is always, we're like 4 or 5 years too late here. We needed to start this relationship when they were in middle school or early high school, or even better yet, when they were little. Because if they don't make that relational connection, they leave here and they have no connection to the church. No connection to the church. And I know, like I said in here, we are so afraid to force our kids to go to youth group, and I get it. Some of us were forced to go to terrible church events or terrible youth groups, and we don't want that for our kids. We don't want them to have a drug problem like we had a drug problem. So we don't force them. And then they miss out. But yet I don't see it as a youth pastor on the other side. I don't see the kids who are being forced to come having a terrible time and hating Jesus when they leave. In fact, there's a girl here today. I don't know where Becca is. She might be up in the sound booth. She's up in the sound booth. So Becca is going to be a junior at the greatest university in the history of the world, Whitworth University. I met Becca like 4 or 5 years ago, and this is how I met Becca. We were hosting our first missions trip mandatory meeting. So it's the first, we know who's on the trip, they've paid their deposits, they've got their paperwork in, we're having our first meeting. And this is where I met her, all right? Now, this is weird because you don't usually meet a kid who's going on the trip at the first meeting. You would meet them at an information meeting or a youth group or when they turned in their paperwork. But I had yet to meet Becca yet because she'd never come to our youth group, and her mom signed her up for the trip. And when I talked to her mom's like, I'm signing my daughter up for this trip because she's a brat, right? That's what she said to me. I think her mom was right at the time, for the record. But she signs Becca up. It's the first day I ever meet her is the day she's forced to go on the trip. She goes on the trip. She has a great time. She makes connections with people on the trip, including our leaders. She ends up coming to youth group, making more connections. Jesus and Christianity become more real to her. She ends up getting to attend the greatest school in the world. Now she's doing an internship with our church and interested in getting into ministry when she's older. Yeah. So this year, when I had 2 parents come to me and say, hey, our son doesn't want to go, but we're going to make him go. I'm just like grinning ear to ear. I was like, yes, this kid's our next youth pastor, right? This is going to be it, right? The kids who are, and I have dozens of stories like that. Some of them are as small as one Sunday night, mom forced me to go, but I ended up having a good time. Some of them are bigger stories where kids get involved for their whole lives. But I don't see it where the kids who are forced to go hate Jesus and hate church and never come back. I just don't see that. But we have to put some ground rules in place. And this is not just for our kids, this is for our own lives. We have to put some ground rules in place, and we have to do that because ground rules are a good idea, right? Rules protect us. There's a reason why at Disneyland, you're not allowed to stand up while you're riding the Matterhorn, right? The roller coaster goes in and out of a mountain, okay? If you stand up, like one guy found out, and then they put a rule in place, when it goes back into the mountain, not all of you will go back in, all right? Rules protect us, and they also guide us. We have rules so that we know which direction to go, right? Imagine the freeway without any lines to guide us. Rules protect us, rules guide us, right? When you're in college, there's rules set in place that say you have to take these classes to get this degree, right? You can't just take like 2 art classes in PE and get a bachelor's degree. Unless you go to like WSU or something, I don't know. I'm just kidding. You don't have to take 3 classes at WSU, you only have to take 2, all right? But what are some ground rules you could put in your life that would better your life or the lives of your children? What are you going to say? Hey, these are our non-negotiables. These are the things that you're going to attend, or these are the things that I'm going to attend. These are the groups that you or I were going to be involved in. These are the goals that we are going to set to get where we want to be. And you could do it in all aspects of your life, I think, but we never really talk about doing our spiritual lives. What are the ground rules that you could put in your life or the lives of your children? I want to talk about this guy named Samson, and the reality is we teach kids about Samson all the time, but most of us only know 2 things about him, right? He was like super strong and he had long hair. Other than that, you're like, what else did he do? I don't even know like where in the Bible he is, right? But what I want to talk about with Samson's life, which by the way, there's the movie Samson is on Netflix. It's utter garbage, okay? I watched it, knew when I was going to talk about him, and I was like, this is terrible. Like, this is why Christians shouldn't make movies, because this is terrible. Anyways, in the book of Judges, an angel appears to Samson's mom. It says this. He says, you are barren and childless, but you are going to become pregnant and give birth to a son. Now see to it that you drink no wine or other fermented drink, and that you not eat anything unclean. You will become pregnant and have your son, whose head is never to be touched by a razor, because the boy is to be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from the womb. He will take the lead of delivering Israel from the hands of the Philistines. Now here's what's interesting, is right after this, she doesn't say, okay, well, what's a Nazirite? Most of us had no idea that Samson was a Nazirite, and even more of us have no clue what that even means. But even before this, in the Bible, we learn that a Nazirite is somebody who makes a commitment, and could be short-term or long-term, to God. And the commitment could look like all kinds of different things. And they would follow 3 rules, at least 3 rules, as a Nazirite. First, they couldn't really eat or drink anything that had to do with grapes, including like raisins, vinegar, all kinds of stuff. They couldn't cut their hair, and they weren't allowed to touch a dead body. And they would make those rules, and if you look at Samson's life, he broke each one of those rules. And he broke them deliberately, and he broke them one at a time. Having ground rules is great. They protect us, they guide us, but they don't motivate us. It's important that you have ground rules, but you need something else on top of that. I think you need cheerleaders. I think you need some guides. I think you need some people, no matter what stage of life we're in, who are further along in the journey than we are. Because we need some motivation. We need some people who will tell us, hey, it gets better. Hey, you can get through this. Hey, don't make this mistake along the way. You got to have some guides. You got to have some people who are further along in you, some counsel. We call them mentors most of the time. And I think you need to strategically find your mentors. Strategically. Instead of just looking around and be like, man, I don't know, like, this guy's bored. He's got nothing to do. He'll probably hang out with me, right? What if we looked at people in our lives and said, who is it that could benefit my life with the stage of life I'm in and the goals that I have? Who is it that would be beneficial to be my mentor? And strategically approach them. I mean, I don't know. You know your kids need this, right? Unless you're like doing it all on your own and that's totally working for you, right? Because parenting kids is easy. No, you want your kids to have other good people speaking into your lives, and you need it as well. Here's a problem with mentorship, is we have, I don't know where this comes from, but we have decided that for mentors, we need to go out and we need to find somebody who's like Superman or Superwoman, and they are going to mentor us, right? They have their whole life figured out, and they're going to mentor us in every aspect of our lives so that we can be just like them and we can also be Superman. And I'm here to tell you, it usually doesn't work that way. Because I don't know about you, I'm still looking for that Superman, right? I thought Kyle was going to be it. Turns out he's not. He's a great leader, great husband, great dad, great follower of Christ, but he has faults as well. And there's places where I don't go to Kyle and say, hey, how do I do this better? A lot of my life I do, but some places I don't. What if you looked for seasonal mentors? Maybe you're in town for the summer, so it like is a literal seasonal mentor. You're like, hey, I think having coffee with this person once in a while would be a benefit to me. What if you had a situational mentor? Right? What if you're in a tough spot and you're saying, man, I could really use somebody to come alongside me? A couple months ago, I did this. I got asked to do a funeral, and I don't do a lot of funerals. I don't like doing funerals, but it's part of the job. And I got asked to do a really hard funeral, and it was a friend from high school who overdosed on drugs. So he's a year younger than me. That's not a fun funeral to do. And I was like, I don't even know how to do this. Like, I don't know. So I called somebody. I called Kyle's dad, Don, who's done hundreds of funerals. I said, hey, can I just sit down? And I didn't say, can you mentor me in this? Right? You don't have to make it weird. I just said, hey, can you help me through this situation? He was a situational mentor. Maybe you need a seasonal one. Maybe you're in a season of life, right? You're a young parent. You need somebody who's been through that season of life and been on the other side. And again, it doesn't have to be weird. There doesn't have to be a contract. You don't have to become blood brothers or anything like that. You just say, hey, can I ask you some questions about this? What about this? What about a one-day mentor? What if you're just like, you know what, I would like to rub shoulders with that person a little more. I would like to learn more about how they do things, or I would like my kid to do that. I've done this a few times with kids. The schools will send them in to do these like one-day mentorships. I think it's a great idea. They get a little idea of what ministry looks like and if it's right for them or not, and other kids do a whole semester with us. But I think that we need to look for mentors, maybe seasonal mentors, maybe situational mentors, maybe just one-day mentors, and strategically get them involved in our lives. So last week we looked at this guy named David, and I said, don't be like David, right? He made this huge mistake where he slept with another man's wife, and then he had that man killed, right? This week, I'm going to alter that a little bit, because in this regard, you got to be like David. David I thought of this yesterday, so I don't actually know if this is a completely true statement or not. I'm still working on it a little bit. I think David might be the most influential, at least the most talked about national leader in the history of the world. I think that might be true. I'm going to think about it a little longer, and if you have more ideas, you come talk to me. But David was doing a lot of things right. We talked about his biggest screw up last week, but he was doing a lot of things right, and I think this is one of them. He did a really great job of finding mentors and seeking wise counsel. So a couple chapters before he has this little incident with Bathsheba, we get here in the book of 2 Samuel. It says, after the king, David, was settled in his palace, and the Lord had given him rest from all his enemies around him, he said to Nathan, the prophet, here I am living in this house of cedar while the ark of God remains in a tent. So at this time, they haven't built a temple yet. They just have a tabernacle, and the difference was the tabernacle is like a mobile temple. It's this awesome tent, right? And David is feeling guilty because he's got this awesome house, and God is down there living in a tent. So he says to Nathan, who's a counselor, he's a mentor to him. He's like, look at this. And Nathan says to him, he goes, I think it's a great idea. You should build that. And then the story says that Nathan goes home. And that night, God comes to him and says, hey, Nathan, it's not a good idea. Go back and tell David no. So the next day, Nathan goes back to him. He says, hey, God says no, don't do it. It's not for you to do. And we learn that later on, David's son ends up building him a temple. But David listens to him. He listens to him. Then he has this incident with Bathsheba. And then after that, Nathan comes back into his life. And he says, hey, man, he tells him this kind of like little fake story. And David's like getting real into the story, and he's getting really mad. And at the end of the story, he's like super mad. He wants to do something about it. And Nathan's like, oh, by the way, that's you in the story. You're mad at yourself. And David says, you're absolutely right. He says, you're right. David listened to wise counsel. He had mentors. He had people that he listened to. Now, ironically, and I don't got time to get into it today, ironically, David's grandson, whose name is Rehoboam, super weird name, you can read about it later. Rehoboam is the one who causes a civil war. He causes this split in Israel. And the biggest fault he has while he does that, he doesn't listen to wise counsel. He listened to his buddies. All right? High schoolers and middle schoolers, listen to me. Taking advice from your friends, this is just life advice, actually, now I think about it. When we take advice from just our friends, people who've never been further than us, that's not a great game plan, okay? I love when you talk to high school, especially high school boys, and this always happens to me. I'm like, hey, are you still dating so-and-so? I'm like, no, man, it has been like 48 hours. Did you follow me on Instagram? No, I don't follow you on Instagram, right? I can never figure out who's dating who, right? I'm like, I thought you guys seemed really happy. Why'd you guys break? Oh, all my buddies told me. Yeah, no, now I'm dating this girl. My buddies say I should date this girl. Well, that's a terrible idea, all right? You need some wise counsel. You need somebody who's been further along in the journey in all aspects of your life. Physically, financially, relationally. Kayla and I, again, because I'm a youth pastor, I see things a little different, but when we look around and we look at the people who have great kids, we're like, we want a parent like they do. What are they doing? And we'll go home. This might be weird. I don't know. We'll like drive home from events. We're like, did you see how he talked to his daughter? Did you see how she responded to him? Did you see how they had this? Do you know that they do this on the side? Do you know? And we find things and we incorporate them into our parenting and we get rid of things. We're like, I don't know. It's weird, but that's just who we are. Because we want people around us who are further along in the journey. Side note, do you know who babysits my kids? There's two groups of people. There's teenage girls that we want our kids to become, and then there's my family, all right? Two very different groups of people, but family is, it's free babysitting, and we have a lot in town. So, come on, we're on a tight budget here. But even for our kids, we've said, no, we're not just going to take any girl who wants to make a little extra money and throw her in our house with our kids. Like, no, we're going to choose kids. And again, there's not a lot of benefits to being a youth pastor. Finding babysitters is one of them. I got babysitters for days, all right? And I'll give them to you at a price. But we can choose them. We can be choosing. We can say, no, these are the girls or these are the kids that we want our kids to be around. We can strategically put mentors into our kids' lives. And then every so often we need to save money, so we take them to my mom's house. So here's my question for you. We use this term all the time. Oh, it takes a village. Well, we all know it takes a village. Well, you're in the village. So how are you going to help? Right? If it takes a village, then we're all in this together. Whether you have kids, whether you don't have kids, whether you're ever going to have kids, whether you like kids. We're all in this together, so how are you going to help? It's all of our job. to invest into the next generation, whether that's investing in ourselves or whether that's literally investing in to teenagers, middle schoolers, little kids, babies. It's all of our jobs. So how are you going to help? Because I think we all need a place to talk about life and religion. All of us. It doesn't matter what we think about God. It doesn't matter if we go to church or not. We all need a place to talk about life and religion. And here's the thing. Kids are talking about it, whether they come to youth group or not, whether they come to church or not. They're talking about life and religion, and it's either in the settings that we've created for them or it's not. But they are, and other people are, your neighbors are, who go to church, who don't go to church. I think it's our job, I think it's our duty to provide places where people can talk about life and religion. It's why small groups are a big part of our church. It's why we put a lot of stock into them. With our high schoolers and middle schoolers, we don't have youth group every other week. We've said we're only going to have half the amount of youth groups because we think small groups are more important. We need to provide a place where kids can talk about life and religion. And particularly, I think it's our job as Christians because Christianity is what taught the world to value children. If you do any history, especially in the Roman Empire, you'll find that children were not valued at all. They were sometimes not really even considered human. A lot of children were not given names until they were at a certain age because the death rate was so high. Infanticide, where you would literally take a baby out into the wilderness and just leave it to die, was not only legal, it was common. It was common. That changed because of Christianity. Valuing children was put on the map because of the words of Jesus. And I think if we call ourselves Jesus followers, it's our job to provide places for kids, children, teenagers, and adults to talk about life and religion. It's our job. It's a part of our history. And so we're going to keep doing that. Every Sunday, right now, there are between 50, 60, 70 kids in that back hallway. We have a ton of kids here. Tiffany's doing such a great job. We need her to do a little less of a job, right? She's just doing too good. Because the problem is we have more kids than we have volunteers. In Brewster, we have 15 to 20 kids in the back right now. Because Joyce has set up a great system for them, and kids want to come. But both here and in Brewster, we don't have enough volunteers. Investing in almost 100 kids every Sunday takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of people. And maybe you're supposed to be one of them. We would love it if you just gave one Sunday a month. Just one. It's an hour and a half. We would love it so that kids, so that children can have a place to talk about life and religion. Within youth ministry, we have kids that want to be in small groups that we can't put into small groups because we don't have enough leaders, especially male leaders. We have kids, we have had to group large groups of kids together that don't naturally fit together because we don't have enough leaders. But we want to provide a place where teenagers can talk about life and religion, and we need help doing it. Someday we would love to have youth ministry in Brewster as well. But we need people to sign up and say, I can be a part of that. I can give a couple hours a week because it's worth it to me. Maybe either because somebody did it for you or maybe because somebody didn't do it for you. We're going to provide places for kids and teenagers and adults to talk about life and religion because it's our job. And maybe that's not what we're called to, but there's a whole bunch of other places that are looking for your help. I know Young Life is looking for leaders. I know Thrive is looking for mentors. I know the Boys and Girls Club in Brewster is looking for volunteers. I have yet to talk to a school district who doesn't want anybody to volunteer. There are places for you. And again, if it takes a village, it takes you too. So where do you fit in? How are you going to help? I think each of us need to establish some ground rules. We need to pursue some mentors. And we got to get involved. We got to. For our own sake and for the sake of the next generation. Every week we do these next steps on your blue cards. And I love it when I get more of them filled out than when Kyle preaches. because then I can brag to them. But really, what it comes down to is it's not busy work. We really spend time on these next steps and say, no, we really think if you're doing these things, like this is strategic spiritual parenting, kind of for yourself. Like we really think if you do these next steps, your life will get better. Here's our first one. What ground rules need to be added to your life? Or what ground rules need to be added to the lives of your kids? Right? What do you need to say, hey, no, these are non-negotiables. These are things that my kids will be involved in. These are events that they are going to attend. I'm not going to leave it to chance. I'm not going to hope. I'm not just going to shoot for luck, but strategically. What are going to be the ground rules for your kids? And then what are going to be your ground rules? I remember listening to a pastor preach a while ago, and he said anytime his family is out of town, they make sure to go to church because they want to make sure that their kids know that church is a priority. And you don't have to be like that, but you should put some priorities in. You should put some ground rules. Otherwise, it's just chance. Otherwise, we're just putting a paper boat in the Columbia River and hoping it makes it to the ocean. But what are some ground rules that you could put into place? Next one. I want you to pick 1 to 3 mentors for yourself or your children. 1 to 3. This could just be like, a one-day mentor, a coffee date mentor. This could be, you know what? I'm really struggling in this area, and I need to find a mentor to help me through this part. I need to find somebody who's been through this situation or who's been through this season. Who are they? I'm not even asking you to approach them. I'm just asking you, hey, just write them down. If you can't think of anybody, just put the thing of life. You're like, man, my marriage sucks. I need a mentor for this. I don't even know who to ask. You could come to us. We know a couple people. We can connect you with somebody. What I found too, I just thought of this. I found too that people who have been through tough seasons, who've been through tough situations, love helping other people get through those seasons and situations. I don't see anybody who gets to the other side like, nah, man, I made it. Good luck, sucker. All right? I just don't see that. You're in a tough situation or a tough season, we can help you get connected to somebody. Who are going to be some mentors, some guides for your kids? Who are they going to be? If they're coming to our event, or if they're coming on Sunday morning, or if they're coming on Sunday night and hanging out with me, we're going to connect them with some people. But who else? Who else? Lastly, we want you to be the strategic change for kids. I told you this last week. I'm going to say it again next week. We are thirsty for some volunteers. We would love to have more kids back in children's ministry here and in Brewster so that we can better help and provide a safe and fun place for kids to talk about life and religion. We would love to have more people involved in youth ministry hanging out with teenagers so that we can get more of them involved in small groups, the ones that are knocking at the doors and we're saying, hey, yeah, you can be in this giant group, but we don't have enough leaders to have you in a small group. We would love that. We would absolutely love that. And to do that, we're going to host an event on the 7th, which will be 2 weeks from today. It's after church. It's at noon. So if you are part of our Brewster campus, you have time to come up and hear about what children's and youth ministry looks like at both of our campuses. All right? You're not signing in blood. We're not asking you for a down payment or anything like that. Okay? We're just going to talk about our program. You can say, hey, yeah, I'm kind of interested. I could fit in there. If you're saying today, you're like, you know what? I think I should attend that. I think my spouse and I think that we should get involved with that. At least hear more about it. Just mark that on your blue card. You can check that box. You can write some on the back. Say, yeah, get a hold of me. I want to attend that. I want to provide places where kids or teenagers can talk about life and religion because I think it's important to helping the next gen win. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for today. God, I thank you that you have shown us how ground rules are important in all aspects of our lives. I thank you, Lord, too, that you have put people in my life and the lives of so many other people who have guided us through tough times, tough seasons, tough situations. Lord, I pray that through this, people would be connected to each other, that they learn more about you, that our kids would be better protected, have better strategy for how they can grow and learn more about you as well. Lord, I ask for all that in the powerful name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. We're going to wrap up this series next week. We'll see you then.
I wish that I knew what I know now. When I was younger, I wish that I knew what I know now. When I was stronger, the can such a pretty show to steal your heart away. The backstage back on earth again. The dressing rooms are gray. They come on strong, and it ain't too long, but I make you feel a man. But love is blind, and you soon will find you're just a boy again. When you wanna live, you get a cheek, makes you wonder where you are. If you want some more, then she's fast asleep, she's just twinkling with the stars. For a young grandson, there's nothing I can say. You have to learn just like me, and that's the hardest way. Ooh la la, ooh la 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 la, yeah. I wish that I knew what I know now. When I was younger, I wish that I knew what I know now. When I was stronger. People try to put us to down. Talking about my generation. Just because we get around. Talking about my generation. Things they do look awful. Talking about my generation. I hope I die before I get old. Talking about my generation. This is my generation, baby. Why don't you all fade away? Don't try and dig what we all say. I'm not trying to cause a big sensation. I'm just talking about my generation. My generation. This is my generation, baby. Why don't you all fade away? Don't try to dig what we all say. I'm trying to cause a big sensation. Just talking about my generation. My generation.
we could get around. My generation, things they do look awful cold. My generation, I hope I die before I get old. My generation, my generation, baby. My generation.
Double wide, quick stop, midnight tea top, Jack in her cherry coke town. Mama and Daddy put their roots right here, 'cause this is where the car broke down. Yellow dog school bus, kicking up red bus, picking us up by a barbed wire fence. MTV on the RCA, no AC in the vents. We were Jesus Save Me, Blue Jean Baby, born in the USA. Trailer park, truck stop, faded little map dots, New York to LA. We were teenage dreaming, front seat leaning, baby, come give me a kiss. Put me on the cover of the Rolling Stone, uptown, down home, American kids. Growing up in little pink houses, making out on living room couches, blowing that smoke on Saturday night. A little messed up, but we're all right. Baptist church parking lot, trying not to get caught. Take her home and give her your jacket. Making it to second base, but saying you went all the way Monday afternoon at practice. Sister's got a boyfriend Daddy doesn't like. Now he's sitting out back 30-30 in his lap in the blue bug zapper light. We were Jesus Save Me, Blue Jean Baby, born in the USA. Trailer park, truck stop, faded little map dots, New York to LA. We were teenage dreaming, front seat leaning, baby, come give me a kiss. Put me on the cover of the Rolling Stone, uptown, down home, American kids. Growing up in little pink houses, making out on living room couches, blowing that smoke on Saturday night. A little messed up, but we're all right. We were Jesus Save Me, Blue Jean Baby, born in the USA. Trailer park, truck stop, faded little map dots, New York to LA. We were teenage dreaming, front seat leaning, baby, come give me a kiss. Put me on the cover of the Rolling Stone, uptown, down home, American kids. Growing up in little pink houses, making out on living room couches, blowing that smoke on Saturday night. Little messed up, but we're all
Driving through town, just my boy and me, with a Happy Meal in his booster seat, knowing that he couldn't have the toy till his nuggets were gone. A green traffic light turned straight to red. I hit my brakes and mumbled under my breath. His fries went a-flying and his orange drink covered his lap. Well, in my 4-year-old said a 4-letter word. It started with S, and I was concerned. So I said, son, now where'd you learn to talk like that? He said, I've been watching you, Dad, ain't that cool? I'm your buckaroo, I got back home and I went to the barn. I bowed my head and I prayed real hard. Said, Lord, please help me help my stupid self. Then this side of bedtime later that night, turning on my son Scooby-Doo nightlight. He crawled out of bed and he got down on his knees. He closed his little eyes, folded his little hands, spoke to God like he was talking to a friend. And I said, son, now where'd you learn to pray like that? He said, I've been watching you, Dad, ain't that cool? I'm your buckaroo, I wanna be like you and eat all my food and grow as tall as you are. We like fixing things and holding Mama's hand. Yeah, we're just alike, hey, ain't we, Dad? I wanna do everything you do, so I've been watching you. With tears in my eyes, I wrapped him in a hug. Said, my little bear is growing up. And he said, but when I'm big, I'll still know what to do. 'Cause I've been watching you, Dad, ain't that cool? I'm your buckaroo, I wanna be like you and eat all my food and grow as tall as you are. By then I'll be strong as Superman. We'll be just alike, hey, won't we, Dad? When I can do everything you do, 'cause I've been watching you. Hey, yeah.
All my life been hustling and tonight is my appraisal. 'Cause I'm a hooker selling songs and my pimp's a record label. This world is full of demon stocks and bonds and Bible traders. So I do the deed, get up and leave, a climber and a sadist, yeah. Are you ready for the sequel? Ain't ready for the latest? In the garden of evil, I'm gonna be the greatest in a golden cathedral. I'll be praying for the faithless, and if you lose, boo-hoo. Hey, look, Ma, I made it. Hey, look, Ma, I made it. Everything's coming up aces, aces. If it's a dream, don't wake me, don't wake me. I said, hey, look, Ma, I made it. Friends are happy for me, or they're honeysuckle phonies. Then they celebrate my medals, or they wanna take my trophies. Some are loyal soldiers, while these other thorns are rosy. And if you never know who you can trust, then trust me, you'll be lonely. Oh, are you ready for the sequel? Ain't ready for the latest in the garden of evil. I'm gonna be the greatest in a golden cathedral. I'll be praying for the faithless, and if you lose, boo-hoo. Hey, look, Ma, I made it. Hey, look, Ma, I made it.
walking around with all these whispers running around here in my brain. I just can't help but hear them. Man, I can't avoid it. I hear voices. I hear voices like my dad saying, work that job, but don't work your life away. And mama telling me to drop some cash in the offering plate on Sunday. And granddad saying you can have a few, but don't ever cross that line. Yeah, I hear voices all the time. Turns out I'm pretty dang lucky for all that good advice. Those hard to find words of wisdom hold up here in my mind. And just when I've lost my way, or I've got too many choices, I hear voices. I hear voices like my dad saying, quit that team and you'll be a quitter for the rest of your life. And mama telling me to say a prayer every time I lay down at night. And grandma saying if you find the one, you better treat her right. Yeah, I hear voices all the time. Sometimes I try to ignore them, but I thank God for them, 'cause they made me who I am. My dad saying work that job, but don't work your life away. And mama telling me to drop some cash in the offering plate on Sunday. And granddad saying you can have a few, but don't ever cross that line. Yeah, I hear voices all the time. Yeah, I hear voices all the time. All the time.
Up where the mountains meet the heavens above, out where the lightning splits the sea. I could swear there is someone somewhere watching me. Through the wind and the chill and the rain and the storm and the flood, I can feel his approach like a fire in my blood. Like a fire in my blood, like a fire in my blood, like a fire in my blood, like a fire in my blood. I need a hero. I'm holding out for a hero till the end of the night. He's gotta be strong and he's gotta be fast and he's gotta be fresh from the fight. I need a hero. I'm holding out for a hero till the morning light. He's gotta be strong and he's gotta be soon and he's gotta be larger than life. I need a hero. I'm holding out for a hero till the end of the night. He's gotta be strong and he's gotta be fast and he's gotta be fresh from the fight. I need a hero. I'm holding out for a hero till the morning light. He's gotta be sure and he's gotta be soon and he's gotta be larger than life. I need a hero. I'm holding out for a hero till the end of the night. Looking out a dirty old window, outside the cars in the city go rushing by. I sit here alone and I wonder why. Friday night and everyone's moving. I can feel the heat but it's soothing heading down. I search for the beat in this dirty downtown. The young without going, downtown the young without going. We're the kids in America. We're the kids in America.
track.